Okay, so hi everyone. Many women reach a point in life where they wonder, am I thriving or just getting through the day? Today's guest knows this crossroads deeply. So I'm Dr. Evelyn Le Ellis, a naturopathic doctor and women health hormone expert. And joining me today is Dr. Harpreet, a board certified nurse practitioner and women's health coach who blends a science, a soul, and a strategy to guide women through the perimenopause and menopause, helping them reclaim the energy, confidence, and calm. So today we'll talk about the struggles that wake women up at 3 a.m., the science that actually helps, and the mindset shift that lets us rise again. So because this is your time to thrive, not just survive. So hi, Dr. Harpreet. So let's introduce ourselves and us. How did you get to do what you do now?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Evelyn, for the invitation. And I appreciate all your audience listening in on our conversation today. And I hope this will resonate with them because I was that woman who woke up at night at 3 a.m. and I was awake until 5 a.m.
Oh,
Insomnia and really frustrated, mood swing, etc. So that led me to, what I do right now. So I'm a board certified nurse practitioner, as you mentioned. I've lived on two different continents. I was born and raised in India, and then have been living in the States for last 32 years as a nurse practitioner for last 32 years. Now, actually, I take it back. So I'm trying to do the
hard to
math, but I
remember.
think
Time go by
yeah,
very quickly. Yes.
yes, exactly. So close to a little over 25 years as a nurse practitioner. I am very interested in integrative approach. So that's what my doctorate is from University of Minnesota in integrative health and healing. And I'm trained in functional medicine,
Yeah.
functional health. Got very curious in bringing both science and traditions together to see how it can best serve my patients, my clients, and myself and family. So I currently am, in full force treating women for hormonal health. But also
Yeah.
in my other functional medicine practice, I see men and women, with gut health and other chronic inflammation related diseases.
Yeah, thank you. We have a lot of things in common, and I'm so happy to have you today. Yeah, I know that you talk about like we're born in India, it's a different country, and you come here and you do integrative medicine. For my story, I was born in Vietnam as for a different country and come here, become like more natural, holistic doctor, and people was like, "What are you doing?" Like holistic now. The term has been so integratively known in our community who want to learn about different aspects of life and how they integrate together. But I can imagine on the other side of the conventional where people would go to the traditional doctor office, 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out, get a prescription, go home, and would choose the pharmacy to prescribe the medication, which have a place for it to be whenever it's really needed for the emergency situation, for the longevity of it, how long would a person want to be? Yeah. So talk us through what is your transition into was say in that nurse practitioner, and did you work in any conventional doctor setting before you transition into integrative?
Absolutely. So I have practiced many years in liver health. So that was my first role for 6 years. I was doing liver disease and liver
Yeah.
health, and it was phenomenal to have that conventional medicine, present. And then I worked many, many years in two different health systems within Innova Health System, which is a local, and then Johns Hopkins Sibley Memorial Hospital in DC. So it was also
Yeah.
on weight loss, metabolic health. I got very interested in obesity medicine, and I was very interested. But in my 40s, this was in my 40s, I was realizing that I was showing up only halfway. I was bringing in just the science, just the evidence, just the conventional medicine. And
Yeah.
it was the time where I really was doing some inner reflection and noticing that I need to show up fully. I need to show
Yeah.
up with my other part that is steeped in traditions, in ritualistic style of living, and also looking at um, the so in addition to the science, but bringing in that wisdom, the traditional
Yeah.
Chinese medicine, the Ayurveda. And so I got very curious in Qigong, yoga, aromatherapy. And so I seeked the integrative nurse coaching course. And I thought it was just helping my weight loss patients. I'm going to make a difference for them. This was back
Right.
13, 14 years ago. And I realized that it was first was going to let me break open my heart and really, make me realize the deepest parts of, the healing that I needed to do for myself. And that led me to ask more questions. It left me with more questions that then I, joined the integrative health and healing doctorate at
Yeah.
University of Minnesota. And
That's
so
beautiful.
every day I realized, like, yes, in really seeing the patient or the client in front of me, they are made of that, the culture, the, ancestry,
Yes.
their
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle, etc. So just bringing in all of that and seeing them and showing up, and encouraging them to use that wisdom and intuition, versus just like, okay, this is my prescription for you. This is your condition, and I'm going to write
Yeah.
this for you. So doing all those, conventional medicine and conventional health positions actually help me to understand, and helping thousands of patients helped me to understand the science and also understanding the lived experiences of people.
That's
Uh,
beautiful.
yes,
Yeah, thank you so much. And I hear the word curiosity that sparked a lot of interest into different paths of doing this. And when I was in naturopathic medical school, and that was by surprise, to be honest, of finding the school in Boston University in Canmore. And before that, I was in pre-med, where it's all about traditional medicine in a conventional way, train the student to go through the program, take MCAT, and go through the whole medical school. And I'm just like, what aspect of humanity I haven't really experienced? They have a humanity course back in my university, and we learn about how to interact with people, how to do philanthropy. And I feel like, so does it mean I have to go through the science knowledge toward the end I make money, then I will give to people? What does that integrate in? And
mm,
that is a big change into my world when I enter the past year and I realized, oh, they have a little club talk about Chinese medicine. They do tuya or tuina, which is a massage from a Chinese medicine, and it was beautiful. It was different. It was hard to embrace at first because we never really know into it. And a lot of time I reflect back to my childhood. I grew up where a lot of Chinese medicine influenced to the Vietnamese culture back then, and we
mm,
take a lot of bitter herb. It's so bitter, and they say the word like the more bitter, the better for your health, and
that's
that
right.
is what the medicine is. Over here, I feel like every time you have bitter for the kid, just take some sugar, take some honey, you'll be okay. But
Let's
we didn't
mask
grow
it.
up with that at all.
That's right.
So that is a
That's
big
right.
change.
Yes, Dr. Evelyn, I just wanted to, it's a funny story. While I
Uh-huh.
was doing liver disease, I was assessing a patient, I was listening to her lungs, and I
Yeah.
reach in the back and I see these scary looking, round, purplish,
Oh wow.
marks on her. And I was like, oh my God, I need to have a
Wow.
conversation with her about abuse. Like, what is going on? And I asked her
I
and I said,
see.
I'm seeing some different color on your back, and is everything all right? And she's like, oh yeah, I just had cupping done 2 days ago.
I know, right?
And I had
Yep.
no idea what that meant. So, so it's a funny story, because in conventional medicine, I hadn't learned that,
Yeah.
people can actually get, cupping done, and that helps with, releasing inflammation and toxins,
Yes.
etc. And so here I was thinking about assessment for abuse,
Oh
and
no.
why was she having all these marks on her back? This was like
Yeah.
early 2000s.
I
And
know.
looking back, I'm wondering how many of us in conventional medicine might not know or have experienced acupuncture, tuina,
Yeah.
cupping, etc.
Yeah. Well, that's a story. I remember it was like a rise of a story. And then in a conventional, people were so worried. Like, what happened? Um, I believe there was a book, and then they talk about how the culture of the conventional medicine has not recognized the culture that we read in medical school, and that was so beautiful of integrating that cultural aspect from different countries coming in, and we learn how the medicine here can be adapted to it, because these are melting pot. In my country, we only have one race. In your country, probably the same thing too. And then when we go to another country, like, oh my God, there's so many things, and then it's forced such a big pressure for the system to adapt to it and have to come up with a different policy. And that can become confusing for people too. Um, One story I relate to that story. When I grew up in my elementary school, very young girl, I remember outside of the front door, because we have like a metal door, and outside there's a lot of people who just like who do cupping at nighttime, but they don't have a facility. They don't have like a big building beautiful like this. They basically just know someone else. They just do it on the floor, on the ground. They just lay out the bamboo mattress. Back in the day, there's no like yoga mat or anything. And they
Yeah.
just lay down there, they do the cupping, they do some heat, and they just do it on the outside in the nature, in the natural community. And I'm just like, wow, this is my first exposure to cupping. And I see those little red dots around the back until later I come to the US and I wonder, do they do it here? Where would it be here? People take medication. And until I go to the acupuncture, I realize, oh, that's not just people in Asia doing acupuncture. People here do it too. So that
Yeah.
introduced me to a very big world of integrative medicine here. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm really grateful now. A lot of insurance companies are including acupuncture as a
They
benefit,
do.
where people
Yes.
can actually have 20 visits per year or something, at least to get started and test out if that's something for them. So I do believe
Mm-hmm.
in maintenance and making sure that people are utilizing those services and, in fact,
Yeah.
advocating for it. So I usually ask my patients and clients to contact their insurance and see if they're not covered, could that be covered benefit to have acupuncture, for maintenance or for treatment.
Yeah, and people or provider can really check on availability or any other third-party platform to find out how many visits per year, and also like physical therapy, massage therapy, even. That was beautiful, and those can be integrated. Yeah.
Yes.
So
And
I'm excited to enter. Sorry, you were saying something.
no, I was just going to say, like, you having, gone to Bester, like that's one of the most credible universities. And so
Oh.
I'm in awe with, your background and your interests and how you have been healing the people you are, and what an amazing place where you got your training. So I'm really in awe with that.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate that you do all of your expertise to create those integrative practices for people like in different facilities, like a big John Hopkins too. That was amazing.
Thank
So
you.
next part, you mentioned about women health. That was my really big interest because I learned that from my residency and that carried with me. And how I know about more of that is I reflect through my own personal early 20s, go to university, got burned out by stay up too late until 1 a.m. to write papers until the fourth year. I realized 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., I stopped feeling good. Like the energy level just drained in my early 20s. And I'm pretty sure the audience will have some of the population out there. And I reflect back to my mother in her 50s. That was a time when we already in the US integrating our life here. And all of
Mm,
a sudden, she just doesn't have the same vitality that I used to know her of. And I
mm,
was surprised. And I look at my grandmother who end up with dementia and also diabetes ketoacidosis. And it's scary because when she passed away, that was the very recent episode before she passed away because of diabetes. Even though she just eats very vegetarian, but culturally we
mm,
have too much white rice and sugar. And it's got to the point where a different generation come down and I look at them and I find out, will I end up like that? It's a
mm.
story where it turns fear into the fuel to feeding that future vision to help other women. What were your story that you can enter into working with women's health?
Yes. If you told me 10 years ago I was going to be doing women's health, I would be like, I don't know. I don't think so. It was my perimenopause that actually, when I went through it, plowed through it, very miserable, not even knowing that I could ask for help. Looking
Yeah.
back, when I started studying hormone health, I realized how much I did not know, and how much of the 2003, the Women's Health Initiative, had shaped my clinical decision making, where I was not offering women, hormones. I wasn't having conversations. In my mind back then, it was very clear hormones are bad. It can cause strokes and increased risk for breast cancer or heart disease. And I thought I would never, be able to write prescriptions or help support women. Which, on the contrary, once the study, came out and it was looked at, there were a lot of, misleading results that were reported. And now that we know we are not using the same, medications and treatment, we are actually able to support women. So I did a full 180 where I did not know anything about perimenopause and menopause. And I had very, strict ideas about how I was not going to ever write hormone prescriptions, to then coming into menopause, looking back and saying, how was I navigating all of this, going to, full-time position, serving people in weight loss and liver disease, and then coming home totally beat, tired, exhausted, not very nice to my family because I had nothing left to give. And then waking up in the middle of the night with with the insomnia, and staying up for 2 hours, and then having to sleep for an hour, and then get ready and go to work. So looking back, I vowed to myself, like, I must be of service to women, and I must make sure that they are supported, and I'm helping them navigate that journey of perimenopause, menopause, so they're finding full support and not having to be gaslit. And it wasn't just yesterday. I was speaking with a woman who has been suffering. She is a lawyer. She's a very high profile job, and in speaking to her other local GYN, she has not gotten anywhere for last 1.5 years. And she said, Harpreet, I'm having brain fog. I'm having issues. I really need to be doing something different with these night sweats and hot flashes and insomnia. I really need to do something. And, we talked about, various options, and she chose to do hormone, prescriptions. And I'm excited for her because I know what's going to happen in 4 weeks when I see her in follow-up. That most of these symptoms are going to disappear, and she's going to be feeling so much better. Obviously, we talked about lifestyle changes, etc. So I hope I kind of touch upon a few things, my own experience that led me to get interested looking back. And what I'm doing right now is really being of service, whether I do that as a nurse practitioner or as an integrative nurse coach, really empowering women to feel, and understand their bodies, because they're the expert of their bodies, and coming into, understanding their own wisdom of what the bodies are telling them.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you so much for opening up that path for yourself, that you can heal and you have the reflection, and you also know what other women are going through. It's interesting to me where I'm not in that range of peri. By just looking at me, like, people are like, what are you doing? You're so young. You're supposed to be in that 30 group and you should not talk about perimenopause. I'm still like, well, I've helped so many women already in my career, and I know what the pattern looks like from 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, up to 70s, and how differences they become. And I learned the power of observation in my own work so far, where I can apply that for my own life. So therefore, I can just prevent that from happening and to be able to give more and contribute more when I get to the stage, without feeling behind, like something is not me. I hear those terms, like, I don't feel like me. I don't feel like I used to be that athletic or that energetic or vital like before. And that is a common thing, which for myself or other audience who are the same age group in their early 30s, they can imagine one day that can happen to us. At the same time, when we learn from these wisdoms from women who went through the process already, and the biology behind it is very similar as a pattern. And the uniqueness is what we actually expose to the mental trigger or the environmental surrounding, or what toxin or what we use, what we eat. It all shapes us in a very unique way. And that can be predictable that we can just narrow it down, distinct what we were doing in the daily life to make some tweaks, small things that we actually do. So for that reason, I do feel like I love this field and I love to help these women, even though they are much older than me. But it's never too late. It's never too early, in my opinion, for the hormone. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Dr. Evelyn, you brought up a great point. There are things that women can do now in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s. And
Yeah.
looking back, in our previous conversation, I had shared briefly, like looking at my mom and my mother-in-law's generation, there are lots of
Hmm.
women who are suffering from fractures or cognitive decline or heart disease. And, they never had this conversation with their clinician about their hormone health. And it's really
Exactly.
sad that we as healthcare providers did not do justice and we skipped that generation who is now in their 60s and 70s and 80s. They were not offered hormones or hormone health. They were not managed when they had their
Hmm.
perimenopause and menopause. So I'm really excited about today. We are
Yeah.
in this movement where there are
Yes,
conversations
we
at
are.
kitchen table, in the clinician's office,
Yeah.
and the office itself, and workplace itself. I'm really excited for Rhode Island. That's the first state, the one state that has actually made, are accommodating women when they're
Yeah.
having their, when they're in menopause by providing, for example, just simple fans at
Hmm.
workplace, or they don't have to wear uniform in the same way if the tight collar is affecting their hot flash. They should
Yeah.
be able to unbutton and be comfortable. So it's really good where workplace is also recognizing that we must treat women, and accommodate for what they might be going through in their hormone health.
That's beautiful. Yeah, those workplace. And I would say when I worked 9 to 5 for 4 years and going through whatever that hormonal changes, that feeling of want to have children and the feeling of getting married, that was my early stage of that. And now, being my own practice and just basically like the business owner is a very different control and have to go through that hormonal shift. It's more like I have a conversation with myself with different person of me in different stage. And sometimes when I journal a lot, just write things down most nights. And I wonder the pattern, like Evelyn yesterday versus Evelyn 2 years ago is so much growth and different, but then some negative thought versus some positive thought. I have to surround by different people to help me get that energy, absorb their energy in a positive energy. That's why people like to attract positive energy to twist
Yes.
my thinking. So therefore I don't have to go back to the pattern. And that can affect by like if I don't have a good flux, like good hormone shift, such as for example, ovulation. Most of the time when I notice, I use Mira, which is like this. Where is it? Oh,
Mhm.
there you go. I don't know if anyone think about this Mira thing, but often
Yes.
people would think about like these Oval or the Flow app. I use these things to track my hormones. And sometimes I feel like, oh my God, the ovulation. Why am I feeling this angry, this like out of the
Mhm.
blue? And then when the periods start on day 1 to day 5, for example, I just feel like, honey, don't touch me. I'm just like not ready. And on day like the peak of hormones around day 10 to day 14, I feel like, oh, I feel calm. I can do a lot of things. I can conquer the world. It's amazing to track and just to daily journal of how we feel and how the digestion, the mood, and anything goes. Yeah, it's wonderful there. I think you're frozen on your end. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. Mhm. It's
You go.
about, yes, it's about listening into the body and understanding, what is happening to our bodies. I love what you just said about women tracking their hormones, tracking their period. And, I think those apps are really wonderful to have those apps to, just track and see what is happening with my mood, with my energy. What do I need to feed the body when I
Yeah.
am starting my period versus when I'm in the middle of the period, etc. So I think that's really so important. be in their bodies and understand what is going on.
Yeah. It is an integrative where it's really take the listening to the body. And a lot of time I know as a woman, especially for people who have children, have kids, the empty nest for women is when children leave home and now they have to reintegrate their life without the responsibility for being there for their young kid. And now the kid is going up to the next stage where they have to rekindle with their husband or their family in a different stage compared to women who have young kids, go to games, soccer game, driving around. It's just so many journey that women have to go through, and also men as well.
Yes.
And that just makes me see that the life outside of what a biology is all integrated. And for us, we help patients and the population to understand the biology. So therefore, they can get that understanding and make some tweaks in their life in the control, so therefore they can know how to respond. For example, is in that stage of like when menstruation happens, slow down. No need to overwhelm your schedule, because if you do that, we will know that not going to go well with your mental health, and we should put more stress. So those are the break time. And when those hormones are very good peak, like in that day 5 to day 12, I do a lot of cycle training. So therefore people
Yes.
understand. And also when I do
Beautiful.
those hormone support, I do rhythmic in a way compared to the static dosing when people
Mhm.
don't have period anymore. And those high rise of the hormone, that's a time when you can really push whatever gas you want to just rev up your energy and your business, etc.
Right.
So that's a wonderful background to do.
Absolutely. I love
Yeah.
that because, women can decide. I mean, whether you're a business owner or 9 to 5, you can decide according to your period when is the best, like my most important meetings, my decision making, etc. When should I plant that on my, which part of my period should I be, my cycle, should I be planning that?
Yeah.
I love that you are teaching a woman, to understand her own physiology, biology, and then integrate that and overlap that onto her life, and be able to navigate and flow through that with knowing when
Yeah.
is the best time to relax and slow down, when is the best time to push and do good workouts and have important meetings, make important decisions, and then towards nesting period, what is the best way to be doing. So the way we eat, the way we are fasting, the way we are working out,
Mm.
all of that could be done with flow, as you mentioned, without having to
Yeah.
push and slam the brakes or push too hard on the
Yeah.
accelerator. If we can just be in that flow of understanding, I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you for the work you're doing with the women in this way.
Yeah. Thank you. And I know that the cycle sounds to be more with people who have menstruation. For people who don't have menstruation anymore or have skipped, and that is not the end. And often the feeling will be different, and that's when we track it. And even when we do the tracking hormone, we can see what pattern that is. And some women can still feel as
Yes,
if they are ovulating, even though they
yes,
don't have any menstruation. So those
yes.
are a very, I would say in my mind, I do it too much where I feel it's beautiful to see the fluctuation. But for the population, they would say, I feel frustrated. Can you figure it out for me? That's totally understand. So that leading to my next question is, you also have the coaching background. How do you integrate them with your work? And what was that different compared to just do a normal treating patient and things like that?
Yes, thank you. So as a nurse practitioner, I depending on what type of work setting, I could have 15-minute visit or
Yeah,
35 minutes, or 30 minutes or an hour long visit in my functional medicine
beautiful.
practice. And working as a nurse practitioner, I am helping them see the biology, the science, and where I'm prescribing medications. As a coach, with all of that information and knowledge, the lived experiences, the experience of all the previous work that I've done with women, I'm bringing in that information, the science, into health coaching. So I work with a woman, let's say for 3 months, 6 months, depending on what her goals are, whether she's looking at weight loss, balancing our hormones, reducing the stress, helping with the cortisol management, so a lot of people now understand cortisol can actually keep us,
Yes,
in weight gain, and high inflammation process. And we know that 70% of chronic diseases are caused by chronic inflammation and stress. So my goal
sure.
is that I help the woman understand that biology and physiology, and then
Yeah,
understanding how to integrate that into her life. So when she looks back at the last 3 months or 6 month journey, she's learned the tools, she's learned how to navigate life without having to, without trying so hard, without pushing so much, and learning
yeah,
to do this with a flow, with this wisdom and this intuition that comes from understanding all of those lexicons, the science, the intuition. And so it's very satisfying, Dr. Evelyn, to be able to spend an hour long visit to understand what is happening, how to navigate that, and then continuing to clarify their vision, and then providing them the tools that will be lifelong, where they can navigate life, with full confidence, and and optimize their health and well-being.
yeah. That's so beautiful. I truly appreciate that you take the biology and you go to the next level of really narrow it down what they do and knowing their life, knowing their person, and knowing their biology to go deeper than just prescribing just like one visit and done. And I think that is where most people, if they're really commit and they want a big change and big shift, they have to immerse into something that will make sense. Because I do in my 4 year career after medical school, we do a lot of like one-on-one, but it's more like when you have a symptom, you have hot flash, you're coming in, you got prescribed, and you're done. And I'm just like, um, I see the pattern when we come back, they feel better with not those menopause symptoms anymore, like hot flash reduced, night sweat reduced, and
Mhm.
also sleep is better. And about 6 months or 12 months later, they're coming in. It was more of a relationship about like going through divorce or having a hard time at work, or it's more that mental psychology of the anxiety and understand when we supply those hormones for progesterone, it will help to produce a GABA to reduce, help us to feel more calm. But we
Yes.
optimize those things, and then we're still having those circle pattern of thought coming back. And I thought to myself, in this 30 an hour, I don't think we can really break it down unless we have a consistency of what we are
Yes.
doing and tracking down a pattern. And that leading me to like doing my own practice and help to create that kind of
Mhm.
experience for the client. And I feel like you're already on the other side of doing that. That was
Uh,
amazing. What
well,
would you
thank you.
say? Yeah.
Yes.
What would you say the different result when people go through that versus just seeing physician for here and there once like in a blue moon, for example?
Yes, sure. So, we are providing, I mean, there's so much in Google, right? People can see
Yes.
anything and everything. It's on YouTube, it's on Google. So it's not the lack of knowledge or information. There's plenty of information, but it is
Yeah.
the support, the advocacy, the, ongoing support that actually makes a huge difference. And with
Mm-hmm.
coaching, to be able to see our blind spots, and when we want to give up, to have that support, we know we don't give up. Like I was, I do yoga, I work out with a trainer. And this morning, I was
Yeah.
working out and I'm lifting weights. And those last 5 reps was so hard. And my trainer is like, you can do this, Harpreet. You got this. And I was able to finish, my reps. And that is the difference, having to do it all by ourselves without the support, with all this
Yeah.
overwhelming information, and understanding like what is true. There are so many contradictory, conflicting information, even just with diet.
Yes.
When should you
Oh
fast? When should you not? What should you eat? What is your, macros? What should I be tracking? All of that. If there is a support person in place and we're meeting every week, for 12 weeks, or every other week, for 3 months or 12 months or 6 months, it really solidifies the healthy behaviors we want to learn and navigate and maintain. And so there is
yeah.
that success one can notice. And, for me, I
Beautiful.
was that type A with a very strong critic, always talking and telling me how, not enough and push harder, do this, do that. And to have trained in self-compassion, to have done mindfulness meditation, teacher training, I
Yeah.
incorporate all of that, having healed my own, personal critics and the judge and etc. I understand most of our, high performing, professional women and homemakers are trying so hard. And yet they have very strong critic, their internal critic that is, not being kind to us. So if I
Yeah.
can, in my sessions, remind them and for them to see that wisdom, that intuition, the strength, the resilience in them, and the compassion, all of that allows them to see, and arrive at a whole different level of health and
Beautiful.
joy and happiness. They're coming
Yeah.
to me not for joy and happiness, but that's just a side effect,
Oh,
of
that's so
good health
beautiful.
so it's just part of that working together, that we start to
Yeah.
learn to, bring joy in our life and fall in love with ourselves versus that inner critic that's always, in the background, making us
Yeah.
suffer. Yeah.
Yeah. So beautiful. Thank you so much for being that trailblazer and willing to embrace a different change. And I always feel like whenever I go to a gym, I go to Zumba class, when I have community of people, no matter how we're formed, we dance, we just follow the rhythm and we just taking that energy. And to be
Yeah.
honest, I'm a super introvert. Like I do work and I just like love to be by myself a lot of time. And when I feel to the point of feeling exhausted, when I don't have that stimulation of creativity anymore to do my work. And that's why I love seeing clients and patients, because I can really feel like there's an interaction of helping them. And by helping them, I feel, okay, at least my fulfillment for the purpose has been done for the day. And the
Yes.
same thing of going to the gym or going to the big community, go to the park, seeing people doing some activities that help themselves. I feel
Yeah.
like, oh, that's my mission too. I feel like my purpose is aligned with other people, and humanity is when we connect with people. And I
Yes.
know there are out there that people who really like to search Google and choose ChatGPT, and I'm just like, well, go for it. Have a very great question to ask, because that just stimulate our intellectual curiosity. It will come
Yes.
to the point where if we don't have another human who can guide us or who can bounce back those ideas, then what would we do with those information, right? Because certain things like we do, guiding people what is the best way to do hormone support, because patches, estrogen, progesterone capsules for pharmacy out there, but then they have like more different beautiful ways, such as cream, topical, sublingual, injectable, pellet therapy. All of those can become confusing at times. And for people who have the experience and results, then the speaking knowledge will be different compared to what they can find from the internet information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which, that information can be very much overwhelming and sometimes not correct. So it's really
Right. Yeah.
important to, get to the source and having that support system as a, dealing with the, discussing with a clinician or having
Yeah.
someone who actually can coach them through that.
Thank you. Great. Well, it sounds like we all talk about that mindset and everything. So let's just like dive into what about the golden nugget or the practical tools that you usually see the result, the good thing for people who are going through menopause, perimenopause that work for you that they can take home from this conversation today.
Yes. What is important is women has a lot of resilience and a lot of wisdom. So listen to the body, understand that the body is a friend, not foe. Your
Yeah.
body is trying really hard. It's not broken. It is trying really hard. There's very sophisticated function of the body that it has been doing all this time for us.
Yeah.
So coming home and coming with gratitude and with understanding that our bodies are actually our friends and they're trying their best to do what they need to do. So we are coming home to support that. And we are also knowing that, what you mentioned about community, the
Yeah.
sisterhood coming together, not knowing, knowing that we shouldn't be suffering alone. We need to have conversations at our kitchen table. We need to have conversations, instead of being at the at a happy hour in a restaurant. Can I meet with
Yeah.
my friend at a, park and go for a morning walk, be in nature, fresh air, support her, check in truly as to how she's doing, what's going on. And this way, when we rise together and we take care of each other, we can really do well for ourselves and create that community around us that is supportive and kind and compassionate. And that strength resides in us, like to be able to see that, like no one else has to come in and make that happen. We can take that first step of reaching out to the support system in place, whether it's a clinician or it's a coach or it's a friend. It really brings the isolation down and reminds us that human beings are made for connection and for support and connection with each other.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. And I can see your heart and I can see your light as well, where it's the heart of giving. I truly appreciate it. And that's the reason why we reach out to each other. We have a community of support, the revolution and the evolution of how hormone talks is around. And I love to create those community, talk in town in Olympia, Washington, and the people can come in and just have that conversation. Because it all takes to the point of action after we talk. So therefore, our body can embrace and remember and keep those memory of the good feeling we feel after a conversation with a friend or another sisterhood. And there was a saying where a man is happy when they marry a wife happy when she actually have a girlfriend, because women, we can really that have the flexibility in our heart, and we are the like clue to keep people together and hold each other together as a soul and a spirit. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. How can people find you or connect with you?
Yes, thank you. So I'm on LinkedIn as my first name, last name, Harpreet Gujral on LinkedIn. And I know we had talked about you'll put the link in. So I'm also available for, a call if someone is interested in hearing more about if this is a good fit. I'm available also on my link tree. So I'll share those links with you, Dr. Evelyn.
Thank you. So I'll have those information in the description for people to join. Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Harpreet, for such a grounded and soulful conversation. I know our listeners are going to walk away with hope and clarity. If today's episode spoke to you, watch a full episode or podcast on YouTube and share it with a friend who's walking the same path. And you can find Dr. Harpreet at the website and the link on the description. And if you're ready to understand your hormones and feel like yourself again, you can book a discovery call with Dr. Harpreet or with me at Prolific Well, and we'll find the path back to the balance. So remember that your hormones aren't your enemy. They are your body's ways of asking you to listen from whatever takeaway that we have today. Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Harpreet.
Thank you, Dr. Evelyn. It has been a pleasure. And thanks to the listeners. I appreciate you. Thank you.